Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means. It's the Mark Order Podcast. I'm back. I'm making my part-timer return today. I'm very excited about that. I went to the beach earlier. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling relaxed. We're coming off a hot pay-per-view. And I get to see you guys in a couple of days. I'm very excited about that this was our go home to Capital Collision. It was AEW's fallout from All In. So we've got a lot going on, but please participate in the chat. Let us know what you thought of Dynamite. Please leave a thumbs up on this video as well. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps a lot. Helps a lot when you guys support us. I mean, the real way to support us is to buy a t-shirt, but we'll tell you all about that later. But I'm here with Joe and Ryan. Fellas, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, fella. Joe, how you doing over there? Do you have a Bucky shirt on?
I do. It's a Bucky's I've never been to. It's a Goodwill shirt, you know, like a.
There you go.
That would be all Bucky's to me.
Like where my Binghamton Mets hat came from? That.
Yes, it's a honey pot. It's nice. Things are going well. You know, looking forward to getting on a plane and head east this weekend, and I booked my reservation for next month at Casa Bonita, so things are looking up.
Casa Bonita. I cannot wait for this weekend. I am very much looking forward to hanging out with my friends and watching wrestling as a fan without doing any work about it in the very near future. I see people in the chat touching tips over there. I love that. I hope that follows me everywhere I go for the rest of my life. But thank you guys for participating. A lot of familiar names over there, and I appreciate that. Ryan, how are you? What's cooking?
You already asked how I was. I was doing great.
You so good. You didn't tell me anything.
I'm like a teenager coming home from school. It was good.
Oh my God, Ryan's going to throw his backpack in the corner and just go upstairs, and we're not going to see him for the rest of the show.
If there was a way to mimic that, I would. There's just not a good way to pull that off. It's related to Joe's Bucky shirt. I learned today that 7-Eleven is kind of big in China, and I never knew that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so is Papa John's.
I didn't know in China, but I know in Japan, like all of our like gas station-y shitty chains are like markets over there where everybody is like very customer service oriented and super nice. So if you go to a 7-Eleven in Japan, you're not like, oh, let me get a roller hot dog and some.
Yeah, but I love the roller hot dog.
No, I'm not throwing shade at it. I'm just saying over there it's a very, very different vibe from what I've been told.
Oh, you get that roller hot dog with the cheese on there.
Ugh. Now I can't like even think about those because it's not that they wouldn't taste great. It's now that I've been vegan for a year, knowing what they would do to my stomach would like ruin my life. Life.
It made you terrible things to your stomach, but think of how much your taste buds would enjoy it beforehand.
No, now I just think about all the poor little piggies that died for what used to be like a drunk college snack for me. But I don't really care how you are. That was all just a facade. I'm ready to talk about All In. Are you guys ready to talk about All In before we talk about Dynamite? Because
I'm all in.
There's a lot that happened on All In. We had title changes. I felt like this was an all-timer pay-per-view. I felt like this was their best one in a long time. And they've had some really great ones. Like, Wrestle Dream last year was really great. Dynasty this year was really great. All Out Revolution was really strong with the Sting stuff. Like, it was incredible. But this felt like one of those times where AEW just put all of their best foot forward. And I feel like we got something productive from pretty much everything except for Jericho, and I think Britt and Mercedes fell very flat, but like this was the perfect combination of spectacle and like the heart of AEW being showcased. For last year, I felt like it was more the novelty that they did it in a really good show. This felt like just an incredible front to back show for me. I don't know about you guys, but what did you guys think of overall?
Joe?
Well, it was about I'll say an 8.8.
8.8, very specific. I like it.
I mean, there's like you said, there's some spots of it that felt a little bit off or a little bit down. Whether it was the Mercedes Britt match, which I think I felt like it was halfway doomed to be that way just because the build was so quick.
Yeah.
And,
the build. Well, Britt getting suspended definitely didn't help.
Yeah. And it just didn't quite gel or translate in the ring like I think a lot of people had hoped. And then you had some other matches in there. The tag match, with FCR and the Clintons and the Bucks. That one didn't really do much for me. I know Darby and Jack got that match got cut time, and that felt really quick for their kind of blow off for the time being. So those couple of little things kind of took it down a notch, but it was still really solid, and I had fun. And the second match being one of the better matches was impressive. So
my God, yeah, what an incredible job from Mariah May and Toni Storm. I also obviously had like a personal pinnacle in the Casino Gauntlet match, but in addition to
was it when Jeff Jarrett got as loud of a pop as Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel?
Joe, not as much as Nigel. If you go back and watch that Nigel pop, he has the
Jeff Jarrett's pop is impressive.
It's impressive, but Nigel had that double wave pop of the Titantron hit and then the He Came Out hit, and it was so all-timer. But what I loved was, like, I obviously love that you had Nigel and Zach in it, and you had this very special moment of, like, half passing the baton, half a dream match kind of thing, and everything it meant for Nigel to get back there and all these things. I loved what we also got from it in a wrestling standpoint, and that not just, like, my favorite wrestler right now, but, like, Zach was a linchpin to Orange Cassidy, to having had a match with Kyle O'Reilly, to Okada and him having so much history. I thought that was fun. But this, to me, was the first Casino Gauntlet that felt like Royal Rumble-ish in a good way. And that, like, there were surprises that a lot of people didn't know about and surprises that nobody knew about. And it kind of felt like that, oh my God, I can't wait to see who comes out next factor was there. And I've liked the two Casino Gauntlets that we got before. But, like, this one I felt like had that kind of Royal Rumble-esque excitement around it. And I thought that was really cool. But, Ryan, what did you think of this Casino Gauntlet? Because I feel like a lot of people thought that was such a highlight, not just because of Zach at Wembley and Nigel, but, like, Ricochet's debut coming in there, and Jeff Jarrett really did get a good pop, and the Hangman putting his hands on Karen Jarrett twice was, like, unreal, like, really, really, really good stuff. Like, it feels like we're at this point where Hangman and Swerve just can't help themselves, and it's so excellent. But I didn't hate who won, but it was a little anticlimactic for me. I get it. But did you feel the same way about just like that style match where it felt like, oh my God, who's next kind of thing? And also, what did you think of the card in general?
So I loved the card in general. I didn't really experience the lows that other people did.
Did you think it was...
Hold on. You can't, don't. I mean, I was all set up to give you that the whole thing was 4 out of 4 funds.
You repeat a little.
No, probably a lot.
My God. It's like it was in the Tokyo Dome. It's exceeding like 4 funds.
Oh, it's Wembley. Bigger than the Tokyo Dome.
It's true.
I assume. I don't know that for a fact. But because I obviously, while I don't love the Hook Jericho stuff, I'm not as against it as everyone else, so didn't really bring me down. I didn't have as many issues with Britt versus Mercedes as people seem to. And I thought the Jack Perry Darby Allin match was great. So I didn't have the lows that Joe, but Joe's not alone. I saw a bunch of people with those same issues, and I didn't experience them. So I like this whole card. I do want to point out on the Casino Gauntlet, One, I loved it. The way they played that match out was perfect. Nigel being early enough where like it just mattered there. But I was listening to a post show. I don't know if I want to highlight said post show because the hosts are just terrible, but they're just unhappy people. But one of the hosts, thank God not the woman, said that he thinks they should not start the pinning and submission aspect until all the people are out. And I couldn't disagree more.
I feel like it makes it too Royal Rumble-y. The more I thought about that, like it just... Then it's
the Royal Rumble with pins. But also, there's something to be said. The one flaw, I love the Royal Rumble, I will admit, from day one, it's my favorite match. You know what, Pieces, you're right. They're kind of sour. But my issue... There's someone. I hope everyone listening understands the joke I'm making that I'm making fun of Kate and Alex.
It was Sour Grabs. It was my post
yeah.
with Alex Classic.
Because I don't act. But my issue is the one problem the Royal Rumble has, especially since they've gotten it's grown over the years with more surprises, is that people stop watching the match and they just wait for the surprise entrant or just the entrant in general. When you say this could end at any time, now you know for the first few that's not going to happen. But after like 4 or 5. It literally legitimately could end because you don't know where they're going to stop it. So I think it puts more eyes on the match itself than just waiting for the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. And I think wrestling has all these tropes where we know they're not going to end it in 2 people. But that trope, like those type of things exist throughout every match where we know like most matches aren't going to end in 30 seconds and stuff like that. So I can accept that. But I love this match because you do watch the match more. But you also get the surprises. When they finally managed to... do you remember the first time they tried it? No one understood what the hell was going on.
Yeah,
Myself included.
And it was cool, but it took me watching it in full to kind of like digest what was happening. Yeah.
I think back to that and be like, they probably should have explained it a little bit better. I don't think they highlighted it enough. But now that they've landed it, this is their signature match.
Yeah.
They've had a bunch, but I feel like this is like, because every other one, don't get me wrong, they have a couple signature matches, but
this kicks the shit out of like the casino ladder match or whatever though.
Yeah,
like,
this is the one that I feel like is theirs.
Yeah.
Because even like Blood and Guts, it's War Games. Well, WWE does War Games. Right. Stadium Stampede is just a Falls Count Anywhere match, essentially. Now it's cool because it goes everywhere, but this is their like no other match they do is like this. Obviously, there's gauntlet matches, but it's.
I agree, and there is a tough logical thing in there that like if 6 guys declare for it, you know the first pinfall isn't coming before that in all likelihood. I think they could solve that by doing one of these and having one of the guys who declared not get in it and then be pissed.
1,000%.
So I get both sides of that coin. Like I don't want it just to feel like a Royal Rumble where, and I think to Alex's credit too, he said like you can get eliminated from the match, but like the actual pinfall for a win thing can't happen until after. But that's getting really convoluted. I think this is
and
fine.
Again, you get closer and closer to the Rumble then.
Yeah, it's too close to Rumble, and I think, I actually was, like, thinking through this a lot. I think if they have one that just busts that kayfabe once, I think I'll be able to sit in them easier, because I'm like, well, then you never know.
They should do one, and you could do it on a Dynamite, you can do it on a Collision, you don't have to do it on a pay-per-view. They should do one where one of the first two wins it.
That would be really cool. And they also need to start doing women's ones because they should do a women's one. This would be
1,000%. But you can't do that with the women's one because it wouldn't be right to have the women win the first two.
Not the first one, yeah.
But because then it establishes, it's like the number one in Mania winning the whole thing. You give that, if you set that precedent, then people expect it can happen.
Right. Agreed.
And it has to be a meaningful one. You can't do one where it's like Serpentico versus John Cruz and Serpentico wins in the first right away because
it's a fucking battle for the ages. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but they're not going to go for a title. That feud can exist on its own. I guess. You don't. So you have to pick a significant one so that people like you can't see it coming in the future.
That's a very fair thing. That's
my point there, is that if you make it one where all these big names declare for it, like they're all like, I'm in it, and then the first 1 through 3 has to win. One of those 3 guys in the first out of those 3. The 4th never touches the ring. I would do 1 out of 2, but whatever. And you have to have names, and I'm just like, you have to have an Osprey in there, something like that, so that people are like, oh crap, we have to focus on this, because at any moment, and then it makes the ones that go longer a little bit more fun, because you're like, I don't want to keep talking, but did you guys watch? You're probably not, because they're so inconsistent now. I think they're going to monthly format. Being the Dark Order. You did, Joe?
Not.
Yeah, Justice for Uno.
Justice for Uno. Evil Uno. The whole, not the whole episode, but his whole segment about, because obviously he was supposed to be in it and he never got called, is him like stretching and warming up and getting ready for it and standing. It's like, and he's like, all right, I'm the next one up, and then you hear the pin.
That's amazing. He's
so
the
like,
best. Justice for Uno.
They rule. I tell you what. Talk about pops. They got a huge pop in the 0 hour. The Dark Order did.
They did.
So
I would love. They are seemingly right now relegated to ROH, but there's at least some consistency in ROH for them, so that makes me happy. But let us know in the chat what you guys liked most about All In, and most importantly, hi Jesse Ozog. Good to see you here. We got SJ, we got Pieces, we got Big G. Got a great crew hanging out with us tonight. Scott George, who thought I was on Fightful tonight. I will be on Fightful next week and the week after. And I will also be at Grand Slam, so you are going to be stuck with these two and probably a guest who will tolerate Ryan moving forward for a couple of weeks. But let us know what you thought of All In. Joe, you kind of zeroed in on this Toni Storm and Mariah May match and everything that story became. She slapped her own mom. She's kissing Nigel McGuinness out here, and she kisses Nigel McGuinness. He returns to wrestling and reunites Oasis in like a 24-hour time span. It's pretty incredible. But that match I felt like was incredible. Some people were saying like it being in the 2-hole was unfair to the world title. I feel like the way that the momentum carried over from the opener into this was actually pretty great. And both women's titles had these incredible stories behind them. And when we look at where we were last year with this women's division, we look at where we're at now, night and day. But you kind of called that match out specifically as one of your favorite things on the card. What grabbed you about it? Just the complete work that it was. Toni Storm dancing up the ramp at the end had me loopy with laughter. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was really just the culmination of the story with the ending of Mariah winning like we all kind of thought she would. And now we're also left wondering what happens to Toni as she is maybe a little bit delusional again.
Yeah.
So
I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
Right. And then, seeing Mariah tonight, kind of, she's almost has this, Icarus flying too close to the sun moment of becoming too big and, feeling herself a lot now after everything. And we know that something's going to humble her eventually.
I'm wondering if that's something. This is Mina Shirakawa to start, but we will find out more about
Technicolor.
that. Absolutely.
Like, I'm sorry, instead of black and white and instead of normal, right, like those bright colors you used to see in the old movies, like Wizard of Oz, that.
Wouldn't be mad. We'll see where it goes. I don't know if Toni Storm finds her way back to normalcy. I don't know if she has time off. I don't know if she becomes even more delusional, but certainly the best story that they've had in the women's division for a long time. The Chris and Stokely on the 0 hour against Willow and Ishii was super, super fun too. I'm intrigued to see what they have Willow choose as the stip there, but a couple of other things in the women's division. We had Jamie Hayter returning, which was incredible. Very, very happy about that, and her coming in as Saraya and her family are out there. I thought it was an interesting and a sound choice to put that on the 0 hour, because it's something that I feel like would make people want to tune in. She comes back as a redhead looking great. She looked great in her match tonight, but this women's division really continuing to keep their foot on the gas. It's very nice to have that consistency. But Ryan, you looked like you wanted to interject with something, and then we'll talk about the main event shortly.
Stokely in a shark cage.
Stokely in a shark cage. That is something that's come up a few times. Yeah, like the faces getting to choose the stipulation makes it feel like it should be.
It's either you can't do a cage match now because that was taken by Swerve and Hangman,
right?
Which was what I thought they were gonna do. I guess you could have a male and females cage match and just say like make double use of the cage. But Stokely in a shark cage is the funniest thing you could do.
It would be so great, and I feel like you kind of almost get. You could certainly reuse the cage, but it feels like you're almost getting into like themed pay-per-view territory with that. Like when you do that, and I don't want that. I don't want that either. But the big news also coming out of the main event here is we have Bryan Danielson as your champion in one of the most phenomenal matches I've ever seen, and certainly one of the best in AEW history. So many incredible things in this. The children and Brie being at ringside was such an important aspect of this. Bryan Danielson has no problem traumatizing his own children if it's for the betterment of pro wrestling. God bless him. But like him just being like, I love you, while getting Swerve stomped and like screwdrivers to the head, and Swerve just like not able to help himself with the violence, I thought was really, really cool. An incredible job from both of these guys. A very well done story. And what I loved was you had like this kind of thing that I was intrigued to see how they were going to handle. Because if Hangman's in the stadium, he's got to come out. Like there's no way his character doesn't come out. Oh, I'll address Birdie in just a moment. But you also don't want him to interfere with the match. So having Hangman come out and just exist and have all like security just be so aware that he's going to, I thought was such a good choice. And Swerve being distracted by it, but it not coming into play in the finish, I thought that was the best they could have handled it, and it makes this pivot into All Out a very, very easy move. Bryan Danielson winning the world title, obviously very for real emotional. His son, whoa, my camera falling down.
He's showing off for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did not mean to be. Lord Almighty. But I don't have with the beach pictures if that was going to be intentional. But
your microphone's also crackling a little bit. I don't know why.
It's because it's my headphones, because I'm in my, for the last day, hopefully, godforsaken temp setup again. But my repairs are done. I just don't have a chance to put my apartment back together. So very excited about that. But an incredible main event. Like, just awesome stuff. His son just, like, not caring and going for the confetti at the end of it had me in stitches. Some really, really good stuff. He's your new champion. You have a new women's champion. We have new trios champions coming out of this. GYV seems to be making a play for those tag championships. So fresh blood in that picture, even though the Bucks retained there, which I think was probably the right call. Let's talk about that main event, and then we'll kind of get ready to swing into Dynamite here. But Ryan, what did you think about our main? It was fun.
It was awesome. They did this whole thing right. Everyone knew they'd come with Final Countdown. There was no way TK wasn't giving you that after missing out on the ability to do it at Wembley last year. I think we need to establish. I loved the crowd. I thought they were great. Kind of not great tonight, but in Wembley they were amazing. Obviously different crowds, but because they started singing the song before, like. They're doing the and I think and it's just so good. His kids were hilarious because they clearly knew the story.
Yeah.
And they were not really ever upset.
To be a fly on the wall for like, okay, this is your first wrestling match to the younger one, and Birdie, like, you're old enough to understand things now. Your dad is gonna get split open with a screwdriver in front of your fucking face. Like, how do you have that conversation with your kids? It's so insane to me.
Yeah, that's so. It was so funny. Like, and of course, there's the scene at the end where he can't get his son to come to him because he's too busy playing with the confetti. But the match was awesome because Swerve was basically dominant the entire match. It felt like He was evil. He was dominant. He was great. Like, he played his role to a T. And these type of stories don't work if your villain isn't up to the par. So if Danielson's I mean, listen, Danielson, you always get some
spots and stuff, like, just
Yes.
crazy. Yeah.
And it needs to be a believable enough guy that he could win and be the guy to end Danielson's career. Like, Swerve is a guy who they would get, like Danielson would say, yes, he can get the accolade of saying he ended my career. Like,
for sure. And even as a face, which he was and wasn't, right? He as a face would still go through any lengths, right? And like, this was the darkest lengths he could go to.
Yeah, so it was wonderful. I was very into this match, which I'm glad, because it would have been really disappointing if this was not a great match, which can happen. We saw what other people were saying with Britt and Mercedes, where you can have talented people who just don't, for whatever reason, in that moment, don't gel.
Yeah, I think with Britt, it's like also very important to remember she was out for 10 months with 2 herniated discs in her back and had a stroke, and this was like her 3rd match back. I have an incredible amount of empathy for that. I do think maybe it would be good if she thinks twice now about when she does things like call out Thunder Rosa's injuries publicly and start to question them. Because this was not the showing that people needed and expected for her. If she already caused issues backstage, felt like she needed to go out there and have the match for life, and she didn't. So, but I'm a firm believer that like even coming back from a regular injury is insane, and people have ring rust and whatever. She had a fucking stroke. Like, that is different. So, that was the only thing, and I think it also did get hampered by the time that it was on the card, because it was after MJF and Ospreay. We didn't even talk about MJF and Ospreay, which was incredible. This pay-per-view was just so stacked, but yeah, that was a tough one.
I mean, we didn't talk about. Listen, I don't want to get too far away from the main event before Joe has given his opinion, so I will bite my tongue. But after Joe's talking, we never even talked about the match that opened it.
Yes.
And the ramifications of that.
We will. We'll recap it, but I think we can also weave that into tonight as well, because I think there's so much to talk about. But Joe, why do you think Danielson hates his WrestleMania 30 run and views this as superior?
I thought that the same thing tonight, but it's recency bias, right? So
I think his second kid was born, so it was more special to him personally, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
So weird about it.
Yeah, it's but it was fun, and I think we thought Brian was going to win, but there were points in the match towards the end where I thought, with all the like false finishes, that I thought maybe they are going to ride Brian off into the sunset here, but Swerve came out looking great, and the loss didn't hurt him, obviously, especially now that he has a new multi-year deal signed with AEW. So he has plenty of more ahead of him now that he can, bounce in and out of that main world title picture. Love the celebration part of the family. I liked seeing, I think I saw some video where you can see Pac breaking character, where he's sitting there laughing at Buddy, and it was just a really the best go home thing to do.
Yes.
To leave the crowd happy.
Agreed. That final shot of him just covered in blood, that spot onto the ring bell was absolutely insane. Like, there's so many things. It seems like one of those matches that if I watch it a million times, there would still be things I missed, and there'd still be things to. My God. Let it go, ring light and camera. My God.
Let it go.
But I feel like you would keep finding details. Like, I'll never forget that spot onto the belt. I'll never forget Swerve just dusting off the Psycho knee like that. But there were so many intricate things in that. It was so, so special. But let's talk about our 2 other champions. We had our trios champions switch hands into the makeshift trio, but I think it's a very interesting one. And we also had the American title, their best looking title, so it's kind of a shame, but seems abolished. Will Ospreay beating MJF to reunite the international and American titles once again in a fantastic match. Really, really good stuff from Max and Will on that. The selling in particular, I thought was just incredible. That was a blast. My only quibble with that entire match was like the ref spot and the cameraman bump were very kind of close together, but other than that, I thought it was fantastic. And that trios match was super fun. Pac getting that win in Wembley after what he's been through is so special. So special. So I'm intrigued to see what comes out of that. We obviously have some things to talk about with that tonight where we can expand on it a little bit more, but a lot of new titles coming out of this pay-per-view, and that's a whole bunch of fun. It definitely feels like the product is a lot more fresh than it was, but we'll start with you, Joe. What did you think of both of those matches and kind of the ramifications of what we're getting here?
I'm really curious to see how we're heating up Pac with him winning the trio champions with the BCC now, what that whole landscape of the BCC looks like now with him, Claudio, Yuta, Brian's doing his thing, Moxley's doing his thing tonight, as we saw. So I'm interested to see how this all integrates together. And then with Pac challenging for the international title now, they're doing a lot with him, which is great. And I'm just really interested to see where he goes.
Well, and they have to at some point, and I'm wondering if this is a part of Mox's comeback. Pac abandoned them when they needed him for Blood and Guts, so I'm intrigued to see how that comes back into the fold. Pac is someone who's beloved backstage, and he had some very unorthodox health issues that they were sincerely thought he would ever wrestle again. Not like a weird neck thing, like a very, very severe thing. And I think this is something they've been waiting to be able to get to do for him, to strap him up with more gold. He's so talented. He's so good in this iteration of who he is. And on top of that, like, already a trios champion, gets to do it with the new trio, international champion, like, and in that picture for so long. Very happy for him. Very happy for him there. Anything on Will and Max? I thought that match was a blast.
It was fun, but I felt like maybe I self-sabotaged myself in my head thinking, how are you going to top going 58 minutes? I mean,
there were a lot of people that had conflicting views on that. Some of them were like, I liked this better than the 58-minute match. Some people said, I liked the 58-minute match better and that overshadowed this. And some people saying, I just didn't need that match as a build to this.
Right.
And I get all three of those. That 58-minute match I thought was so special because the pacing felt like anything I'd ever seen for an Iron Man. Like, that felt like it was being paced for 20 minutes but went 58, which is insane. But I understand. I understand where you're coming from. But, Brian, we'll round this out with you, and then I'll look for closing comments here on All In. But what did you think of those two matches and anything else that you want to add on here? We had a lot of title changes. Even your FTW title, which isn't recognized, changed. But outside of the women's TV title or I guess both TV titles and the tag titles, we got a lot of new champions here.
So listen, I'm happy Pac had his moment. I think that's, no matter what the story is, I think a guy like that deserves to have that moment. I'm okay with that. I'll never complain. There are some interesting ramifications that we'll talk about tonight because they are already going a place I didn't expect them to go. So we'll see. The Ospreay MJF match was awesome. What I love is it benefited everyone. MJF
Yes.
got to reestablish his heel character in a very fun way. He continues that tonight. Ospreay kind of got to further his babyfaceness, but outside of the I'm just happy to be here way to like.
Yeah, we can finally move on from like the Tiger Driver is the whole story. Like, I think we can put that in the rear view now.
and he had that cool Assassin's Creed entrance, which is good for him.
I was gonna ask you about that because you know the gaming.
I love the Assassin's Creed game.
Okay,
Assassin's Creed game. So
to me, I was like, this is breakdancing and some cool stuff. He was geeked out about it, which is all I give a shit about. But I was just like, if you're gonna have breakdancers, where's the Australian?
I don't understand the breakdancing at all.
Okay.
especially because she didn't do the kangaroo.
Yeah, that's the
that
only
we
move
saw
that
at the
matters.
Olympics. But because I mean, I will say Assassin's Creed has like parkour in it.
Parkour.
So if like you,
Gainer.
if you if you had brought out someone doing the parkour, that would have been awesome. But I didn't.
Sure.
But the whole Ezio and all that stuff was awesome. He really.
Yeah, that was the original voice, right?
So yeah, the voice of the set. I'm not gonna. They had a first game, it was great, but then they really hit their stride in the second and third, and that was the guy who did the voice.
Okay, cool.
And it was kind of the game was awesome, and his voice acting was awesome in those games. So to have him is incredible. And I just think, obviously, for people like Ospreay, it's proving his worth when he's able to mix partnerships up like that. That's, I'm assuming, and I know I would say I'm right, that's a paid partnership.
Yes.
So AEW,
very much
so like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So like they're getting, he's showing his value there. And then MJF,
Danny Garcia coming back too. We didn't.
That's where I was
coming.
coming. And now you have a feud that we'll talk about more tonight, but you have a feud coming right out of it with Danny Garcia versus MJF, which again is great for both of them because Danny Garcia has that huge feud that he finally gets to have with literally a top 3 heel in their company. And usually one, but it just depends on what they want to do with him at the time.
And a top heel that's not involved in a title too. Like a top talent is a good thing for Danny Garcia to be mixed up in for sure.
And MJF gets to go against a little bit different of a guy.
Yes.
He's not usually the elder statesman.
Agreed. Yeah, he gets to he'll really get to elevate a talent here, where I feel like a lot of his title reign and his other matches have been half elevating other talent, half establishing himself. So it's kind of cool to see the payoff come in that way.
Yeah. So that's I that match was, if it wasn't for, I mean, it's actually third in my brain of ranking it because obviously you have the main event.
Insane.
And you have the gauntlet for all the fun that the gauntlet provided. Quality of match wise, I would say obviously Ospreay and MJF was better, but just the gauntlet would have won no matter what the minute Nigel came out. Like that's gonna win.
Nigel and Okada in a ring together. What the fuck, right? Like, I mean,
Nigel and Zack Sabre Jr.
And that, yeah, like it was. I mean, look, I'm obviously a Zack stan, but like, there's something always so cool about the way he clears a ring with technical wrestling. Like, he'll come in as a hot tag or a ring clearing spot and be like, hold on the ground twisting neck breaker to like 5 guys in a row. But the moment where Nigel just like tapped him and he turned around and they locked up and were doing all this wrist work, like, what better love letter to this crowd in England? My God.
I will say, New Japan, I know we're in England, so he's going to get a big pop anyway, but his was huge. New Japan really knocking it out of the park by keeping him around.
And like last year, he wasn't on this at all. Him being in this was so perfect because he's chasing Danielson back, right? So like, it not only was he on the card, it made sense. And there's something really special about the fact that him and Will Ospreay got to wrestle in front of 50,000 people when you know those two were selling out bingo halls in England. Like, that is...
I mean, they Britted the hell out of this card.
They did, and I think that some of it was just available talent, right? Like, Jamie Hayter, Pac, Ospreay, Zack, Nigel is... I mean, he has the Union Jack on his Titantron. Like, so special. So special. Soraya's whole family, right? Though I'm quickly learning that she is not as over in England as I think everybody thought. But yeah, too, LT Photo calling out the pin reversal from Zack, just like insane stuff. But this was really, 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 really fun and such a good mix of great match quality, great moments, a couple of surprises. Like, it was a really, really solid and productive pay-per-view moving forward. I think it set the table for a lot of stuff, and we're going to get into all of that piece of saying what a month Zack had, the G1 and this. When you add that on to the fact that he's probably going to win the title in October instead of at Wrestle Kingdom, like, what a 3 months of that guy's his entire career has been for these moments, which is pretty fucking cool. But we're going to see him live at Capital Collision, which I'm very excited about. We'll be seeing a lot of TMDK, pretty much all of TMDK under the current iteration, as well as we'll be seeing Mercedes, we'll be seeing GYV, we'll be seeing a lot of people that were on this card. So very, very fun stuff. But before we get into AEW Dynamite, we're going to take a couple of moments to tell you about a few things. The first is you see Joe in his Bucky shirt, and you see Ryan in his just plain white tee, I think, not the band.
Hey there, Delilah. What's it like in New York City? Hey, you're in a plain white tee.
I am in a plain white tee. Everybody saw a lot of it today, but if you're like seeing our t-shirts and then you see our background and you're like, oh my God, what would happen if they combined these two things, these t-shirts and these logos? Well, do I have news for you? We have Mark Order t-shirts at the Pro Wrestling Tee Store. Really means a lot when you guys support us in this way, especially because all that money goes back into the show for paying for our production resources and things like that. So that support is very appreciated. But you can pick up any one of these 4 shirts. The two to the right side of the screen are double-sided. You got the breast pocket one with the words on the back. You got the Mark Order ones that are doubled up there, as well as your single editions, your more traditional ones up front, the 2 on the left. So get one for 4/7 of your week, the most common fraction in the world. Check those out. We got to refresh that picture sooner than later. We've got too many silly bits and other colors to explore now at this point, but feel free to head over to Pro Wrestling Tees. They've got sales running all the time. If you're picking up some of that new AEW merch off of the site at this point, they're hiring new merch designers over there finally. Some good stuff. Please pick up a Mark Order shirt if you're able to. We really, really appreciate it. But in addition to telling you about our t-shirts, there's so much more to tell you about. But we're not going to talk. We're going to let the commercial break talk for us. I'll tell you all about some of the shows here on the Shining Wizards Network that we're proud to be a part of here.
We'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the squared circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Brokast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke Bags? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
So apparently Kate's setup continues to be the devil, and she lost audio about halfway through. So we'll see when she comes back. That's that's what we're waiting for. I don't have anything pulled up to lead our discussion because what opened the show tonight? Oh, it was Moxley. So I'll start us off. We're in Champaign, Illinois, I think, right? Champaign? Yeah. Champaign. It was Champaign, Illinois.
Lovely place. Been there a couple times.
Have you really?
Yeah. Went to football games there, like 2 or 3 football games. Walked by the Kahn Family Tennis Center.
They have a tennis center there?
Yeah. They have there.
No wonder they go there. And the show starts. Oh, wait, before I get going, I just see white screen. Can she hear me? I see a head bob.
Hey!
This is gonna bother me.
Just making sure. That was so weird. I had commercial audio and then I didn't, so I said I'm not taking any chances.
Well, your headphones sound better too, so maybe
Take chances, make mistakes, get messy.
What?
Isn't that how it ends? The Magic School Bus? You guys don't remember that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, not like off the top of my head. What a throwback, but my God. Well,
Yeah,
I'll tell you
right.
what
It's Get Messy. Yes. All right, good.
I'll tell you what was magic today. That was AEW Dynamite. Guys, I missed when AEW would have these 1-2 punches of incredible pay-per-view follow up with the badass Dynamite. And I feel like we got that pretty much from front to back tonight. Did you guys feel the same way? Joe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was a banger.
It was a good like reset after their big super show of advancing to the next chapter of where we're going with stories. So I like that part of it.
Yeah, and I'm so intrigued because, there's still rumors of like the Hurt Syndicate out there, and despite what people want to pretend, we don't actually know that Ricky Stark's contract is up anytime soon or anything like that. Don't think he's going to be showing up at No Mercy. I don't think AEW would not take him off the website and protect WWE's surprise. So he's still possibly waiting in the wings as things are getting heated up and things like that. So I'm excited that there's some new life injected into this, as well as you still have Kenny Omega on the shelf. You still have Adam Cole on the shelf. You still have Switchblade on the shelf. So I think fall is looking really exciting. And then you consider we're throwing the C2 in it. Feels like we kind of had the table set for the next couple months. And I don't know if I felt that way a couple weeks ago. Ryan, you said you thought this was a banger.
A banger.
Did you also think it was and MASH? And do you feel the same way I do, like headed into fall, that we're in a really healthy spot? Because I think the C2 started in October last year, right? So exciting stuff.
So a couple things. Lord Kev saying your equipment seems to be under the influence of the influencer. So there you go. You saying back to front has got me singing Where My Girls At from the front to back. But we were texting during the pay-per-view, and I said this felt like it could be the beginning of a big momentum shift.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, and I got to be clear to everyone, listen, not momentum and compare. Like, people always hear that and they think, oh, it means WWE versus AEW. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking simply about perception of fans, even people who like AEW. The perception of the company was down because of those bad months of booking, and perception doesn't change on a dime. They've been good for a while, but it just feels like that pay-per-view went off so well and was so well received, and then tonight matched it. And
I
was like,
agree it's been good for a while, but when you go back to those OG Dynamites where it felt like every week was an event, it hasn't been quite at that level. So they've restored some of the feeling, but today felt like the feeling was restored.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think I said Dory, Jesse, but maybe I did. But it just like, again, the momentum, because there's the momentum I feel like the companies know they have momentum and then they get better with it somehow. I don't know how that works but it seems to. Maybe it's because fans get better. Like, we get happier, so they're louder at the arenas and that pipes up the fan. What was that? Anyone else hear that?
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what that was.
I think it's you somehow.
Maybe House of Black. I don't know.
But oh, Jesse says I think I said during, but that Philly hit hard. Yes, it does sometimes. Philly will always hit you hard.
It does right at home.
But so this Dynamite was felt like you said, like an OG Dynamite, where a cleaned up OG Dynamite, let's say. They didn't have the technical issues of the OG Dynamites, but it was great. So I was when you were off getting audio fixes,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still hosting, but I want to address this because you are an employee of a company that happened to have been reporting a lot on Mox in recent days, and then he shows up.
Yeah.
My question was this. When did the Mox questions begin? I didn't realize people were questioning where he was.
I mean, the joke has been, this guy's never going to take a vacation,
yeah.
right? And then when he takes one, it's hilarious. But I think people started to question it when, like, Blackpool Combat Club was kind of fizzling out, and then all of a sudden Pac was in the picture. And people were like, well, where's Mox in all of this, both for realsies and character-wise? But yes, FightfulSelect.com had several updates on the fact that he was literally just taking time away. Like he just has been going at this a very long time. He fights a very physical style. And I think it's also good to have some breathing room on this product. Like, watching AEW now, I'm like, if you could pick any two guys to start a new promotion around for the first 5 years, Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson ain't bad. And that's no discredit to Jericho, that's nothing like that. But, like, if you're gonna make guys the guys, like Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, I don't know if you could get better choices. So I think it's really, really awesome. And I'm intrigued to see what we're getting out of what we get from him tonight. And that's a beautiful segue into this episode, because that's basically what we start with. We get this Bryan Danielson video package, which is great. It's just a recap, but it was really lovely. Really, really well done. If you get Jon Moxley coming back, he's fully bald, which I think is funny because Ricochet's here and the whole, like, why you bald thing. But he wants to talk to someone who's nothing like him. He wants to speak to Darby Allin, and it's about time they talked. And he says he won't be hard to find, and he leaves the ring and then kind of pauses for a moment and tells Shivani that it'll take some time for everybody to wrap their brains around this, but you're not in charge of the company anymore. Which a lot of people were like, does that mean Shane McMahon is coming in here? Like, what's going on with that? But some interesting things, and I'll just tie this in now. We see Marina Shafir popping into the picture later in the show. She looked fantastic. She's just taking out these poor security guards backstage, except for one who's smart enough to step away from it, and Joe Alonzo, which I love to see that. But she looked awesome. She's just tossing people around. She's been working a lot on ROH. She has a finisher now called the Mother's Milk, because the submission is very close to her chesticles. Very, very fun. And in January, he said he would love for her to be like the female representative of the Blackpool Combat Club and represent them in Japan and all around the world. Seems like he's breaking away from that. We're going to need some justification around that, but I think there could be a story that leads to that. But a very interesting development for Mox, and, like, as we're seeing these returns, Jamie Hayter debuting Ricochet, Danny Garcia was gone for a couple weeks and then coming back here. We got some injury returns on the horizon. Moxley is so important to the foundation of AEW, and seeing him back with something completely new intrigues me a lot. Joe, what did you kind of think of our opener and the segment that we get later in this?
The opener was interesting, just to have Mox come out with a different demeanor, a more, toned down, very quiet, but very, like, pointed comments. and leaving people wondering who he's talking about, obviously, with mentioning your AEW, looking at Shivani. And then later on, with him teaming with Marina, I think that's great. They finally have that partnership. I got a little bit lost in her back. I mean, it was just
You stole my words, Joe.
It was just looking at the Game of Thrones map of like trying to figure out like that's how big it was. So
True.
it'll be interesting to see what this is like a renegade like mutiny overthrow of AEW or what's going on.
I'm intrigued because we already have the storyline that's for the soul of AEW, and he was very cryptic. So, interesting stuff going on there. I also noticed online, and Ryan, I'm intrigued to get your thoughts on this too, like, the Righteous, who are not normally people that try and tweet their way into creative angles, were both, like, Dutch and Vincent both were like, I always liked that John Moxley, and, like, Vincent did the, I dig this guy, or whatever kind of thing. And maybe they were just live tweeting along with the episode, but it seemed pointed. They don't normally do anything like that, which was interesting to me. Was interesting to me because Dutch and Vincent with Mox is such a combination that I never would have thought of in a million years. Don't know if that means jack shit at this point, but very interesting possibilities. What did you think of this segment, and do you think we could be getting the Righteous involved in this?
So a couple things. One, just want to say Timothy Drake agrees with me about AEW's momentum, and I haven't seen him in chat before, so welcome, Timothy Drake.
Timothy Drake.
Big G with a very important point. No Wild tonight, which got mentioned. I loved the jokes on Twitter where people are like, "I spent all that money on the final countdown, and I can't afford Wild thing."
Yeah, Wild
but it is very, very telling. I think actually. What is an easier way to change a Mox character than to just take away his popular music? Like to put him. Sorry, my phone just started vibrating for no reason. To put. Yeah, I said the word for you. Put him in the spot. Great promo from him. He is very good at. Listen, he's good at everything. He could be comedic, he could be serious. In this, he was cryptic yet threatening. It was perfect. Like he didn't say a word, and you're like, "Oh crap, he's gonna kill someone." So, first of all, I was with Joe. I got lost in Marina's back. I do think she has a weird foot thing because she goes from throwing her socks into the crowd into stepping on someone's face. She's got a weird foot thing, but
she knows what the people want.
Yeah, so the Righteous with Mox and Marina are interesting because Mox and Marina kind of look like they're the shoot squad. They especially Marina, but the Righteous don't really fit that, but they fit a violent motif.
Yes.
That could, and we kind of
especially Dutch with that boss man slam is insane.
I'd rather them go the violent motif over the shoot squad. Because you kind of already had that with the BCC. So unless you're joining up with them, and I know the BCC wasn't, but it had that feel to it.
Sure.
So unless you're going that route, go with overly violent. And then Dutch and the Righteous just makes sense then. And with them, you gain talkers. So you have guys who can do their promos outside of when Moxley's around, which I think you always need. So I'm intrigued, I guess is the only way. This was the perfect kind of thing because it's the good curious. It's like, I definitely want to see where this is going.
Agreed. And let's not forget Lance Archer has been a piece of that picture as well. Like Mox and Lance Archer on the same side of things. No matter who else is involved, sign me up for that.
What if he just put a group of just killers together?
Yeah. I mean, that could be really cool. That could be really, really cool. But some good stuff, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. I know we're already an hour into this podcast. We had a lot to talk about with All In, so thanks for hanging around as we work our way through AEW Dynamite tonight, but who knows? He could have been speaking with every Tony. I know that's what Sean had theorized. It was Tony Storm and Tony Schiavone, like all the Tonys that you could possibly think of. But we're backstage. We get Hook, Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, Willow Nightingale, Kyle O'Reilly, and Ishii, the conglomeration. And Mark gets some Mike's time, and this is what we get, okay? I don't normally read promos verbatim, but you with the French-inspired name Renee, are lucky enough to bask in the glory of our group of men and women. It is with a heavy heart that we admit that we were not victorious this past weekend, but alas, it is a kink in the armor, not a knife in the heart, for we are here tonight to take that very kink, stretch it across the oar, and bang it out. We start with Nightingale, more than just a bird with a song, but let her sing. Later, still we see Ishii bring about pain unparalleled, and finally we celebrate the night-themed Hook and his decimation of the one Chris Jericho. We are infallible, we are indestructible, we are the conglomeration. This is just fun. I don't know what to tell you. Mark Briscoe being like a top babyface promo at AEW never ceases to amaze or pop me. In most, I would say most, not even just WWE. If Mark Briscoe is somewhere else, the temptation to make him a heel because of the redneck kung fu and his intensity and his violence would be there for anybody. He'll make a great heel down the line. He's making a really fun face right now. I don't know how much leverage there is or how much staying time there is in this because Ishii is going to go back to Japan at some point. But I'm having fun as hell with this right now. And Kyle O'Reilly, God bless him, just unbelievable in all of this. Joe, we'll start with you. What did you think of our conglomeration backstage here?
The one takeaway I had from it was I really would like to see Mark Briscoe do commentary with Excalibur and Taz. Yeah, I think that would be like a shit.
Only if Kyle sits behind him.
Yes. And occasionally just repeats a word.
I think it'd be a lot of fun if they did one of those for on Rampage or something. But no, it's fun. I like you said, I had a shelf life. These little comedic bits, they always have a shelf life. But I'm happy to ride the wave until it crashes.
Sure, Ryan. Any thoughts on this?
I mean, I love this kind of shit. You know that. So this is right up my alley. I'm with you on like staying power, but not everything needs staying power.
Agreed.
Sometimes you can do like Joe was kind of saying, like you ride it until it crashes, and that's perfect. Just short, fun, and then you move on. I think sometimes we get fans and the companies get too caught up being like, well, how long can this last? If it gives me a couple months of fun, then I've had a couple months of fun, and we move on to the next thing. I don't need 2 years of it.
As long as it's several funds.
It's at least. Well, hold on. Before you move on. At worst, on a bad day, it's 3 out of 3.
That's fair.
It'll never hit 2 out of 2. But I think it's a 4 out of 4.
I know you, and I've known you.
It's not
for a bit,
this.
and I know you've never done drugs. I question everything I know about you when I see number 2.
I don't know. I see Ryan. I think number 2.
You know what? I can't even be mad. Well played, Joe.
That was beautiful.
And now I'm in this, and now I'm going with Austin Powers. Who does number 2 work for? But no, I mean I don't do drugs. I don't drink. Though people think I'm a drinker. That always comes across.
Because you're a sports guy with a backwards hat. Everyone would
Yeah,
assume
I always
that.
have. I've been told I have. Everyone who's ever met me thought like I was the biggest partier they'd meet, and then it's like, no, I'm a nerd.
Well,
let's have a lot of fun.
That I've known.
I just have a lot of fun.
It's just
Ryan just wants to have fun. Oh, Ryan just wants to have. That's all they really want.
We were talking about things that don't like overstay their welcome and how something can be just short and fun for a few months and then you can move on from it. And I just would encourage you to maybe to maybe learn.
I overstay my welcome.
Well, I'll tell you what was short and fun, and we can move on beautifully, but I wouldn't be mad if they ran it back. It's Hangman Adam Page and Tomohiro Ishii. And hey, what happens when 2 guys beat the ever-living dog shit out of each other match? Holy hell, was this fun. We get a lariat to Ishii, both men standing and just staggering around at the end of this. You get a deadeye from Page and a buckshot lariat from the apron. It took so much to put him away. This was just 2 guys throwing bombs the entire time. And there's not really a story here because it was setting up a story for what's about to come after it. But, man, this was so much fun. When Paige went for that Indian deathlock and Ishii reached for the ropes and you get those elbow strikes and Ishii just walking right into it. Like, come on. This is just fun. This is fun. The DVD in this as well. Ishii with the German after. Like, what a blast. But since I'm out here calling spots, we'll throw it to Joe because he's allowed to. What did you think of this match? And by all means, if you have any spots you want to call out.
I think you hit all the spots because it was watching the match. It was basically me playing like Mortal Kombat for the first time. And the match, it's like punch, kick, slap, and that's what the match was until about the second half when Heyman, decided to do a little bit more grappling with, like you said, the Indian Deathlock, and he had that crossface, which I thought was a nice little piece of wrestling to include. Knowing that Danielson just beat his arch nemesis with tapped out on a submission, like I think there's an interesting little piece of, maybe this is how I can beat him again, and have him tap out. But it was a lot of fun for the first time match.
I agree, and they kind of operate from, like, I'm a big styles make matches person, but there's something really fun when two people are in similar worlds as well. I just want to take a minute to thank everybody that's in the chat too. Jesse Ozog, Second Lieutenant Colonel Photo, Pieces, Timothy Drake in here, Big G, Lord Kev. Like, we've got a good crew coming in tonight, and I know some of you are joining a little bit later, so if you would leave a thumbs up on this video, please chat along with us. Leave comments, subscribe. You know the deal. All these creators ask you to do the same thing, so we also ask you to do those things. But Ryan, I had so much fun with this match. These guys just beat the crap out of each other. I gotta say, I've always loved Hangman Page, but something special for me clicked from the Mox feud on, particularly the I'm angry, I'm tired, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, the meds aren't working, but I'm still here because I'm a man promo. From that moment to now, there's just been something about, like, he was such a perfect, pure white meat babyface, but in his own right. And then, like, these layers that we've been getting added to this version of him that gets to just kind of let the wheels be off here, right? Like, there's something really fun when guys are working heel and just don't have to hold anything back because they're not trying to do those babyface comeback spots or anything. Like, he is just full on in this mode. I thought this was a blast. What did you think of this?
So, you're saying that he's like an ogre who is like an onion that has layers.
Sure.
Okay. Also, when I played Mortal Kombat for the first time, I picked Johnny Cage, and I would just dip down and do the nut punch over and over again.
And Rick Knox oversaw a lot of those fights, I'm assuming.
All the time. This was just, I was saying yee when I was watching this match.
You were
they
like,
were just hitting each other. Yeah, exactly. This was just hitting each other, and I loved it. I mean, there's not a lot to say about the actual match because it was one of those where, like, there's not a lot to say. They just kind of just beat each other up a lot.
They just beat the fuck out of each other.
But
Yeah,
I think the
cute.
point, I think they're trying, and they're not trying, they're succeeding in establishing that that's who Hangman is now.
Yeah.
Hangman was always a hitter, but they're trying to put him in that next stratosphere of, like, extremely violent.
Agreed. Hi, Meet Normus. We see you over there touching tips. Thank you so much for popping in here. I'm assuming this is the post-fightful switchover that we get from time to time. Sean and Alex finishing up over there, but we appreciate you guys tuning in, and I appreciated what we got after this match. Hi, Ricardo. Everybody touching tips. I love it. Post-match, this is incredible because this is what I love so much about Hangman and this iteration of him specifically. I've watched playthroughs of one video game, but it's Red Dead Redemption 2. He has a little Arthur Morgan in him, this cowboy. Okay, there are some moments in here where he's a little bit low honor Arthur, I feel like.
Yeah, so he's reverse Arthur Morgan, in my opinion. The story of Arthur was, if you played low honor, that's on you, but I think you were supposed to play high honor. And Arthur Morgan's story is more about redemption, where this is Hangman's downfall in a lot of ways. This is where he kind of becomes a bad guy.
It's true. But, like, there were... I guess I'm thinking of low Arthur. Because that shit got violent, too. But, I did. It's the one video game I ever watched a full playthrough of, and it's only because Alex did it. When Swerve's music hits, you just see Hangman go wide-eyed and not blink. Like, there is a switch in this man that is only flipped on by Swerve. And it is so fucking compelling. And it's not tired. I was texting with my cousin, and I can say it on this show because it's a safe space. He was like, oh, this is like if Drew and Punk was good. Like, and it kind of feels that way. And I think there's been a lot of really good stuff with Drew and Punk on the WWE side. But it was 8 months of them not being able to get in the ring for this. And they're not allowed to be doing death matches where they're spitting each other's blood in there. It's just different. But it's the same idea that they're just tormenting each other so much. And then Swerve
you know what the
comes
difference
out
is?
and he's fucking pissed. Like, just ice cold. But go ahead, Ryan.
No, I'm completely agreeing with you. I think the difference is, and there's no fault to Drew and Punk. Drew and Punk feels like a wrestling thing. Whereas Swerve and Hangman feels like they actually hate each other. Now, I know it's wrestling, but there's that feeling of like Drew and Punk keep screwing each other over in just like a traditional way where it's like every time Hangman sees Swerve, you could just see hatred in his eyes.
It's incredible. And to your point, like, that story has been like Punk screwing Drew over at a lot of devices, like for Money in the Bank and title shots and out of the title and things like that. Also bracelets, to the point of the chat. But, like, the visceral hatred in this is unbelievable. And Swerve, too. Like, coming down and just... They're fixated. They are fixated on each other, but... they get forehead to forehead, and they don't kiss. Because they never fucking kiss. But they were within smooching range. Like, they were nose to nose here. But Swerve has the mic, and he says he should slap Paige into a bloody mess right now for getting involved at All In. But instead looks at Paige and tells him he feels sorry for him because he's become a petulant little child. And with every tirade and tantrum, Paige gets further and away from his own success while Swerve gets closer to it. And he might not have the title, but he will always be referred to as a world champion. And this is Swerve's house, and Paige failed. And then Paige just loses his mind, screaming at Swerve that he's not a champion and he's a piece of shit. He broke into Adam Page's home. All this stuff where people are like, Hangman's not a heel. He is, but he's such a justified heel, and he just starts throwing all that back at him. He says you broke into his home. They wrestled 3 times and he couldn't win by himself, throwing at the references to Nana and Cage and all these things. It took him 30 minutes, and he couldn't get the job done, and that Swerve is just not as good as Paige, talking about his own title shots. And he wants just Swerve, and he, like it began, wants him on his knees. My God, we get a steel cage stipulation here, teed up, and I love that we're getting a steel cage match because that death match was so violent on its own. You can't do a Chicago street fight. You can't do anything that's just hardcore without a steel cage being involved because they already put on the pinnacle of that. And that was a while ago. So let's go into steel cage territory with this. We'll start with Ryan here. This is so much fun, man. What did you think of this?
So I'm going to repeat a Twitter joke that I made because I liked it. Okay. That if Hangman wants someone on his knees, I'm sure there's plenty of volunteers.
Yeah, that is. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. I've seen the tweets of people offering exactly that.
Exactly. I think Hangman's digs on Swerve were perfect, being like, you needed a lot of help to beat me, because that should always be referenced. It drives me nuts when that doesn't get referenced
100%. Because
it should matter. That being said, I think Swerve's replies were great, being like, you can't move past me. Like, you're falling apart. And I was champion. Yeah. And in a weird way, there's nothing worse than being called obsessed with someone.
Yeah. And pointing out, like, his distance from the title there for sure. But, Joe, I'm going to throw it to you for your thoughts and throw in a little bit more context here. He also points out, and I don't think this was public knowledge, that Paige had a second kid And Swerve says that he drove up to his house, parked out front, and waited until the morning, and he saw Paige escorting his pregnant wife down the stairs with the bags packed, getting in the car and driving off to the hospital.
Didn't hit mute, hit stop cam. I apologize.
I was like, oh, Shining Wizards logo, okay.
I meant to hit mute so I could blow my nose, and I hit stop cam instead.
There you go. He also says that he realized he didn't need to be focused on Paige. He needed to focus on the title. So it's kind of fun because we have all this justification from the Adam Page side of things, but you still have Swerve in the face seat, I think, by a little bit. It might be 60-40. But him pointing out those things I thought was a really good thing to counter with here. What did you think of this whole segment?
I like the fact that it's not, you don't have the world title intertwined with this because it's such a personal blood feud that
100%.
I think the world title might have been a distraction or a really low subplot of everything. So the fact that we don't have that in the way makes it even cleaner of a blood feud. I like the fact that Swerve will forever be the mind manipulator, and Heyman, for as much as he's grown and changed throughout his character, he still has that that mental weakness sometimes where he can't fully focus, or he's just down, or he questions himself. Kind of like when he talked about Heyman, it really should just be a father instead of a world champion. And him just walking off without any retaliation. I thought that was a piece of him just, having an internal battle again with himself. So I can't. A cage match, I think, is the right call, and hopefully it's kind of the big blow off. So to me, that should be the main event.
I think it is poised to be, last I knew, so that is good information, and I am excited about it. I would assume with the steel cage it just would be, anyway, from a production standpoint, like, that's a pain in the ass to lower and raise, so it would make sense. You might as well do it that way, but...
I will say, to your earlier point about the whole CM Punk Drew McIntyre comparison, in order to get to this level, I think Drew would have to, go take Larry on a walk. That could do it.
Yeah, it could be. That's the closest we could get. That is the closest we could get. But I'm fully with you, Joe. I love that Hangman Page especially, but both of these guys can't help themselves. Like, old Swerve came back in that match with Danielson, tormenting him in front of his own family and all these things. Old Hangman, or new old Hangman. The guy who just can't resist, and the guy who... does the self-sabotaging, right? That's always been a part of Hangman, is the self-sabotaging mechanism. And now he's not anywhere near the title because he's just obsessed with Swerve. This is unbelievable. Not only storytelling, but character arc stuff. And I think it's so incredible that I would say on the men's side, the two best stories that we've gotten are Swerve Hangman and Kenny Hangman. And he is the same guy in completely different versions of that. It is insane how well he has executed both situations. But we move on to something that didn't matter in the ring, but matters so much to the face of the product. Jamie Hayter and Harley Cameron. Seems like Jamie Hayter is going to rip through Harley Cameron and Saraya pretty quick on this, but this is a 3-minute squash match. Harley has looked very good considering she's had 35 entire career matches or something like that. This was a little bit sloppier, just that bulldog spot didn't go the way that she wanted to, but I'm excited because I think Harley Cameron fills a void that Bunny left, and I always liken to a Carmella of just tons of personality, serviceable enough in the ring, but Chelsea Green fills this role in WWE now too, of the second they're on screen, their minutes are maximized. I think Harley Cameron can really be that for this division. And now it's such a serious work rate heavy division. It's nice and refreshing to have that. But this was all Jamie Hayter. You get her doing what she does best. That rock bottom onto the knee kind of thing, hitting it 3 times. Just nasty, nasty, nasty stuff in there. Poor Harley's neck. But Jamie Hayter's back in action. This is so much fun. I'm so excited What a shot in the arm to an already blossoming division that we have. But Brian, we'll start with you on this. Redhead Jamie Hayter, looking good in every capacity. Harley Cameron, an absolute hoot. What did you think?
I didn't hate her seeing either of these two, but listen, Jamie, the match was what the match was. That it was going to be a squash, and it was necessary because you're bringing Hayter back, and Hayter fills an interesting role in this division in the sense that she's obviously been champ. She can be your star, but she also can fit in any feud you put her in. Like, she has that nice where, like, I don't know why some wrestlers feel like if they don't have the title, what are you doing with them? Sure. Whereas I think she has that ability to be in everything. I'm a big Harley Cameron fan. I was a fan of hers going back to the QT TV days. Sure. And then when we saw her on the Jericho Cruise,
unbelievable,
and she did the comedy stuff, she just won me over.
Woman. Yeah.
And I realized how funny and talented she is, and now I'm seeing it more in her character. And truthfully, when she was teaming up with Saraya and she's pulling out the knife,
yeah,
I was like, this is just everything I could want. So you're right. She fills a very good role, and I'm glad they're giving her more and more time because you need wrestlers like that. You need people like that on your roster who could take losses and not suffer at all because people just want to see them.
100%, and the chat's agreeing with us. Hayter is my favorite female wrestler in AEW. Harley is great in the mid-QTV. She's a star, yeah. Like both of those things kind of holding up with everybody in the chat, but Joe, what do you think of our squishy squash here? Any thoughts?
To our point earlier, where we discussed about how Britt came back with not a lot of reps and kind of thrown into this match with Mercedes. This is kind of the opposite with what they're doing with Hayter of, easing her back in after being gone for an extended period of time. And I think that will pay off in the end. I'm still getting used to redheaded Jamie Hayter with the bright colors. She looks like a jacked up Rainbow Bright.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Red hair and then like all the rainbow colors and the gear, and that's what I see when I see that. But can't agree more with the Harley stuff. I wish that AEW would use her more in other roles. I know because of her character, it probably limits her a little bit of what they can do with her, but I think it'd be funny if she could, be a substitute host for AEW. Just do something with her to get her acting and her personality and her comedy out there as well.
Agreed. And the Hayter return has been just short of 18 months, I want to say. This has been a long time in the making. We'll see what goes on with Harley Cameron. The Outcast isn't really a thing anymore. So I don't know if it'll be Saraya turning on her or vice versa or anything like that, but we'll see. We'll see what's to come from that. Healthy women's division, man. Healthy women's division.
Extremely healthy. Stacked.
Really, truly. And then when you look at ROH, it's like, man, they are set up.
I always keep that in my brain because, in my opinion, they could just bring any one of them up. And you review ROH, so I would trust you on this if you agree with me. But from what I watch, they're doing a very good job of building the women up in ROH. Like you're not just being thrown out there. There's characters being developed. There's matches happening. So
Big
that
time. Yeah.
If you want to bring them up, they're coming up as fully developed characters who can just hit the ground running.
Agreed entirely. And since you brought up my Sour Post show before, something Alex Pulaski put into terms very well, I thought, was WWE and AEW are both on fire with their women's division, truly.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at, on the WWE side, someone like Ivy Nile, who he and I know the potential of because we saw her in NXT, but the way she's been used on the main roster has not been good. They don't know the ceiling of that, or the main roster fans don't know the ceiling of that. But when you look at ROH and you see a Diamante and Layla Hirsch, 2 death matches in a row kind of thing, even if you're just watching the AEW main roster product, you kind of catch wind of these things, right? Like you start to see it, you start to see spots of it, you hear things. So there's people that know like she's on the rise, which is healthy. So
that's the one thing. And I'll let you. I won't be long. I wish, as long as they keep treating ROH this way, actually, even if they fix it and they make it its own thing, one thing I would like to see a little bit more of on TV, and something WWE doesn't do with NXT either, is a quick highlight package of what happened, so you could see who's moving up the card.
Very much agree with you on that. Well, let's get this learning tree dog shit out of the way once we get Roddy Strong.
Hi, guys.
Big Bill on the mic, which is always good, saying that colors are changing, and Jericho is really proud of Hook. He finally listened to him. Strong asks, Jericho! To get Kyle away from Orange Cassidy, OC is bad news. They reference the $7,000 thing. Holy fuck, this is so tired and boring, but the match, I have to say, was quite good, and we are starting to see Big Bill, who was so over in Europe, really, really blossom into a star. You have Hook and Keith locking up to get it started. Big suplex right off the bat. Some really, really, really fun stuff. All the Jericho stuff was mostly bad. There was the full Nelson in there. The spot where OC tried to break the hold with his pockets, that made me almost fall down. That made me laugh so hard. I did forget they had a history, so I appreciated them bringing it up for real. But this, at least, because it was a multi-man match, you got to see a lot of other people in the mix. I can't say enough about Roddy Strong and how, since he's turned serious, has been one of the most reliable and versatile people that they have. And he's kind of under the radar, even though he's been in title pictures and stuff. But my God, that guy can just walk into anything. This made no fucking sense. Let's be so for real about this, right? Like, this did not make sense, this culmination of guys. But, like, he gives you a little bit on the mic, and then when he's in the ring, what a veteran presence to have help sew things together. I just appreciate him so much. But you have OC in the ring with a suicide dive to Brian Keith and Mark hitting the ropes, flying over the top rope toward the end of this. But we got a Red Rum closing this out. We got Roddy Strong with his foot on the rope, but calling for the submission here. You get the winners, Hook, Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and Kyle O'Reilly. This was a bunch of fun. Like, they have to figure out ways to work around Jericho literally just aging and not being as good as he was. And this was one of the things that they did. And the plunder matches with Jericho are always work because they can hide those things. And then a multi-man like this just lets him come in, do his shit, get out of there, and let the kids showcase themselves, right? So this was a better use of him than we've been seeing. Let's break up this fucking learning tree, though. This is not working. Dead in the water. But Ryan, you love dumb stuff. What did you... Sincerely, this match was a lot of fun, though. Like, for real, this was pretty good. But what did you think of all this?
You love dumb stuff.
Look, sometimes I do too, but you have more forgiveness around dumb stuff than I do.
Real quick, though, when they were interviewing Jericho and the group in the back, did they have a laugh track?
I actually didn't notice.
There was laughter, but it didn't sound like it was coming from the arena.
That would be very much in line with this, so that's fine if that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, these type of multi-man matches are always fun. They're just silly. I don't have a lot I want to... I just had, like, again, it was just a good time. A lot of, the Jericho Orange Cassidy hearing it was 3 years ago. It's just wild to me.
It was a pandemic era feud, and it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just how, because it feels like it was a century ago in my brain. Because it was so different than what we have now. And then I like the ending. Let me rephrase it. I like what we're getting out of the ending, which is the next feud for Hook.
Yes.
Looks to be Roddy Strong, which means Hook's out of the vortex and onto a very fun feud.
Roddy working with Hook is such a great combination because one thing people forget with Roddy is he will also sell his fucking ass off for people. Like, as hard-hitting as he is, he's equally as forgiving of an opponent on the other side. But, Joe, you have a tolerance for dumb shit. I wouldn't say the same enthusiasm that Ryan has, but this match, admittedly, a lot of fun from my standpoint. What did you think of what we got out of this?
No, the match was fun. I think I'm getting a little tired of these 8-man, 16-man, 12-man, these giant matches, because they all kind of feel the same sometimes.
And we got like 100 of them 3 days ago. So
Right.
yeah.
So I think I'm a little tired of that, but they're always fun. You kind of know the formula of them. I was a little surprised that the fans in Champagne or Champagne Supernova, I was surprised they were really behind the Jericho gimmick. I felt like they did the wave for him. They said hi to him.
Yeah, fuck this crowd.
I'm like, it was a weird crowd, but I'm glad they're moving. Like I said, moving Hook onto Roddy. I'm a little disheartened the fact that he's still riding with the FCW championship. I'd like to see him get away from that and put that belt away. And I'm really looking forward to Big Bill to be that breakout guy from this whole learning tree shtick. And any guy who's almost 7 feet tall and can wear trunks, God bless.
Literally just a felony that they've been in this learning tree gimmick and nobody has said, and you can't teach that. Like, just a felony that they haven't done that at this point. It's right there. But totally in agreement with you. The multi-man random thing needs to stop, and we're overdosed with that, so I'm with you. And to your point, like, Hook fought for the same title this year at Wembley as he did last year at Wembley, so it kind of feels like it's time for him to move on. Taz kind of hinted maybe it's time to retire the belts. They have so many belts in AEW now, I think that could be a good idea. But gentlemen, it's time. It's time to get your dancing shoes on. Because Mercedes Moné comes out. And she's backstage having a party. But you can't have a party without private party. Let me just first off say, Camille. My God, the woman that Camille is, she looked amazing tonight. I thought her look was awesome. Mercedes at All In, just with the incredible
She's a brick. Ow.
Mercedes at All In with the corgis, and the Queen's entrance was so much fun and all this. But she is backstage having a party, and it can't be a party without private party. So they come up, you get Zay kind of making a pass at Miss Mercedes here, saying that the red looks good on her. And she has Okada there, thankfully, who is in love with her, and asks him how you say bye bitch in Japanese, and gives a sayonara bitches.
Did she pronounce it weird?
I think she has, because she had weird pronunciation in WWE too. I don't think it's a speech impediment, but I think there's
like my Philly accent.
Her. But she's from Boston, and it's not a Boston accent. Like I think she has some sort of some obstacle with her speech that makes this trickier for her. But Okada, I knew he had an unbelievable charisma in Japan. I knew he was one of the best wrestlers in the world. I did not think he was one of the funniest motherfuckers in all of wrestling. Like, the deadpan stuff, even in the Casino Gauntlet match that he was doing, like finding the hard cam the way he did, he's so fucking funny. This was perfectly fine. I love this kind of silliness. Ryan, any thoughts on this?
No, I mean this was
CEO private party remix. I kind of like it.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, I like that they brought in. It seems like they're hyping up private party again, which I'm all for. If they're getting I don't know how you say it.
Lined up for a push between the Scorpio Sky thing and
And I like that they're setting them opposed to her though, because like I don't want them to be the lackeys. So I like that they're kind of like
agreed
on the other side of it. And then I love that Okada and her have this thing.
So funny.
And it's just so funny. And you're right, Camille.
She just looked fantastic today. She really did. What a beautiful lady. C.E. Joe, any thoughts on this?
Wow.
Kind of embarrassed it took me that long to think about.
I like it. I'll go with it. Yeah, Camille. I mean, we had Camille. We had Hayter. We had Marina Shafir's back. We had a lot of them.
The powerhouse
They-
lady is showing up tonight.
Yeah, it was the one thing that popped me was at the end where after they dismiss Private Party and they go back to celebrate and start dancing, and she has Okada do the dance with her, and he's like, "It's my dream come true," and that was it. So I like having these intervals of comedic Okada, but then at the same time, when he's in the ring, he'll still bring the Rainmaker out. So I like.
Agreed. I would like to see him wrestle more. I would
Right.
like that contrast more. But I'm with you, Joe. We're gonna stay with you because we do have another quick women's segment here with Mariah May, and she says she is not having her celebration in this city, but she will show you what's under her robe. And somebody check on Nigel McGuinness. He might have returned from wrestling and passed away just days later because
I know I almost had.
she is in her lingerie. She's a beautiful lady. This is a show riddled with beautiful women.
If this were 1993, I think we'd be calling her a babe.
It's true, and you know what? I'll take it even now. I have no problem putting her in the babe category. But I'm watching this, and she's getting these great crowd reactions, and we know she hits like a truck, and we know she's nailed her part of the whole Tony Storm story and all these things. And I'm looking at this and like so blown away by, we have Camille, Marina Shafir, Mariah May, an insane character in Tony Storm, Mercedes Moné on the show. The diversity in the presentations, not just like and culturally, but the difference in how all these characters are now in this division when it felt so static for so long. You have like this hot diva who has this Joshi experience and will drop kick you into the next century. You have the CEO who's one of the best women's wrestlers of all time. You have Tony Storm who's out of her damn mind. You have Willow Nightingale who's one of the most likable people in the world. I'm just in awe. Like I really am, from where this division was a year ago to where it is now. And specifically that aspect of it, of how many women A, feel important in it, and B, feel so fleshed out from one another is so awesome. And also, goddamn Mariah May, you look amazing. So, Joe, how hideous is Mariah May, and why is she so repulsive? Your thoughts?
Watching tonight's segment with her, I was questioning, like, how many times can a grown man go through puberty? I felt like those who have, we went through a second one. And for, the younger audience members out there,
they caught up real fast.
Yeah, it was a coming of age moment for them. And it's just not fair that she can look like that and do everything she does so well.
Tell me about it.
An embarrassment of riches.
It is. And the poor people of Hoffman Estates denied a celebration, but given something that they will remember for a lifetime. Ryan, why is Mariah May so disgusting? Your thoughts?
It's hideous.
Yeah.
I love it. Is such a good heel line to be like, I'm gonna have a celebration, but not here.
Yes.
Because it's got that cheap heat of like the local insult, but it done in a really clever way.
Did Mercedes do that too?
No, Mercedes had a celebration, I thought.
I didn't know if she had one immediately after, or if she did the whole, like, I'm not going to celebrate in this city.
It got interrupted by Britt. I want to say. She had the balloons out there.
I don't think so. But it was, listen, there's nothing bad I could say about this segment. That's all I'm gonna say. This was the perfect segment.
It was extremely effective. It was extremely effective. I'll take it, but I only regret that Nigel McGuinness is probably dead. So
legitimately, honestly, that was the first thing I was like, man, if he was on commentary, probably would have been the funniest thing that's ever happened in AEW.
I'm hoping it's referenced on Collision, just so he's allowed to comment on it.
If he was dead, then would he be stiff?
If he wasn't, BlueChew.com. We don't have our own code yet, but someday. Someday. Now for something completely different, as they say on Monty Python. Hi, Kylie. We see you in the chat, by the way. We got some more people filtering in here. We thank you so much for sticking with us as we work through this episode of Dynamite. But Ricochet's in-ring debut, and I love that they made the choice to say, we're not immediately going to give them Will Ospreay, but we're giving you Will Ospreay of the future and Kyle Fletcher. Some people had made the... And I think it's a fair point that part of what made Ricochet unique in WWE is nobody else has that moveset, and in AEW, a lot of people have his moveset. But I think today he kind of showed, like, there's still a lot of secret sauce that has nothing to do with that. Because there's a lot of people that have this moveset. There's not a lot of people that are a walking babyface superhero that you could just give to anybody in any match. And his sneaky strength never ceases to amaze me. That was something I noticed in WWE, is he'll suplex someone twice his size and then go do all of the insane flip stuff that he does. But, like, very, very early in this, we have the backflip landing on his feet, leapfrogging over Kyle, and the Hurricane Rana with the kip up. Like, just absolutely insane. And Kyle Fletcher, we say it all the time, just like a young phenom in this. I loved the Northern Lights flip into the suplex with the kip up in this. Like, this was a hoot. We get the Brainbuster, and Ricochet kicks out of it, which is awesome because that Brainbuster, I think, has been pretty well protected. But Ricochet standing up here, Kyle hitting the ropes and running for the high knee, going for that pile driver, but Ricochet escaping and hitting that vertigo for the win. This is a blast. This is super, super fun. And then you get Ospreay coming out, and he has a mic, but Pac comes running out, and he just poisoned Ronda's Will from behind him, and holy shit, that was so much fun. Jeremy Lambert tweeted that he thought everybody remembered his sincere moment in the ring, and that he was smiling with Bryan Danielson, and he immediately had to do something to negate that. We get that poison Ronda behind Will Ospreay. Kudos to both of them, because that's a scary spot for Will, because you're just waiting for it to happen, and you probably can't hear that well over the crowd. But Pat grabbing the mic, saying, let it be a warning, don't forget about the bastard. Welcome to AEW Ricochet, and there's a dream match just sitting right there for all of us. Very, very excited about the possibilities of that. So, Ryan, we'll go to you first. What did you think of the match and this post-match that I thought was so much fun?
So the match was awesome. I mean, I think Fletcher was a great first opponent in AEW for Ricochet, because Fletcher is extremely talented and can do all this cool stuff, but he's also tall. So it kind of gave a nice little, like, something for Ricochet to work off of. Like,
he's sneaky tall. He's tall. Like, when we saw him on the cruise, I was like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah, I did not expect to be looking up at him the way I was. And that helps because Ricochet gets to show off that he can wrestle big guys, which he has in WWE, but you always got to assume you might have someone who's not watching him over there watching AEW, so you got to try to showcase that out a little bit. I hear what I was, you commented on the similar moveset, and I saw a lot of that on Twitter, people being like, in WWE, he's unique, in AEW, he's one of a bunch. And the first time I read it, I'm like, there's a lot of truth to that. And then I thought to myself, were the cruiserweights, were their best matches when they faced other cruiserweights or when they faced, like, giants? Is Daniel Bryan's best matches against when he faces Zack Sabre Jr. and other top talent, or when he faces guys who have are completely... But that's the point.
Matches in the world. Yeah.
But that's my point. Like,
yeah,
we're seeing how good Ricochet is against guys who are great. First of all, we can't discount WWE wrestlers. They're all amazing wrestlers.
Incredible. Yeah.
But we're seeing him with guys who can't really do what he does. Imagine how good his matches are going to be now that he's with guys who can do what he does. Like, let's see him take it to that next level. He might even be more incredible. And you look at his early career before WWE, and he did some awesome stuff. And now he has that training in him and that experience where he knows how to put in the story and the selling with all that. I'm so excited. And again, AEW doesn't need him to be the best talker in the world. He just has to be an amazing wrestler, and he will do awesome. So
But there's also a lot of managers around, so it's good.
There are a lot of managers around. The after is where I have questions. I love Ospreay coming out for Ricochet because everyone knows they have a history. It was well established.
He has a relationship with Fletcher too, so both sides of that.
Yep, the Pac thing is weird, and I love Pac versus Ospreay, but Pac has a title, and it's a team title.
Sure.
So what are we doing? So that's my only thing is I don't like that. I mean, I guess I'm okay. Like I don't have an issue when trios guys go into singles. My only issue is when your guy's a title, he probably should stick more to the team than he should to the solo.
Sure. I think that international title shot for Forever Ago was probably not supposed to intertwine with the trios titles here. But
yeah.
I wouldn't be mad about Ricochet in a trio. I'll put it that way. I don't know of any plans. I haven't heard whispers of it. If you want him just as a singles guy and you want to do a match with Pac to set up something else, sure. But that guy in a multi-man picture too, with what Ricochet can do, wouldn't be mad about it. But Joe, what did you think of our match and our post-match here? I loved just even the staging of the Poison Rana with Will. Like that came
out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was RKO-esque the way that it was filmed. What did you think of our first Ricochet match on Dynamite and this?
Yeah, working backwards, talking about the Poison Rana, it's so cool to see something like that when a lot of the behind the back attacks are just like a forearm to the back of the neck or something basic. But like to see him just out of nowhere do a Poison Rana, that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, that was insane. The match was great. It was a nice sampler to what we're going to get here down the line with Ricochet and Ospreay and whoever else. I don't love seeing Kyle take losses so much unless it's playing into the story of him and maybe getting away from the Callis family eventually. I feel like he's taking a lot of losses lately, but not that this loss hurts him all that much, losing to Ricochet. And then talking about his style, I think like a lot of the moves he was doing tonight were very, I think, similar to his repertoire from WWE.
Sure.
But I think you don't need to necessarily show out completely on your first cable wrestling match, and you have so many more matches to go that I think you said when he faces maybe other people who are his high flyers and things like that. Some other variances will come out that he wasn't able to do at his former employer. And then my other takeaway was really that I felt like his interest is a little bit lackluster for who he is. And like, I was making a deal, like, I feel like he should get the hologram treatment more than the hologram should get the hologram treatment.
I understand what you're saying. I do like the theme a lot, but like, there could be a little more zip to it with his stature in the industry and what he's able to do. He's a superhero. Like, let's present him that way for sure. For sure. Well,
I think they're counting on Ricochet to just overcome that by being Ricochet, whereas they're building up a brand new hologram character. So you don't give Ricochet the extra because you don't think he needs it. I want to say, as the chat was mentioning matchups and stuff, it hit me. Ricochet versus Leo Rush.
That's going to be ridiculous.
I want to see it now.
Yeah, I hope it happens someday, and I hope it happens someday soon.
Kate's about to be under attack.
There's just a buggo in my room.
I just hope it lands right on your face.
Nah, it's like dancing on the ceiling because it's trying to get to my life. But we're coming down the home stretch. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Please leave a thumbs up on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps people find us quite a bit. But to your point about Kyle Fletcher, Joe, he is taking a lot of losses. I don't know if there's a Mark Davis holding pattern. That big Australia show, which we didn't even talk about at the top of this, needs to have something special for Kyle Fletcher in it, I think. Whether Mark Davis is ready to go or not, which I hope he is, because I miss Aussie Open, the tag team, for sure. But we're headed to our Bryan Danielson chat here. He's addressing his future as champion. It is a shoot that this guy is made of graham crackers at this point. Everything he said about needing neck surgery is true, and that he's going to need it sooner than later. Like, all of that is true. But huge you deserve it chance from the family, or from the fans. Thank you, Brian Chance. All these things. And he says that Birdie, who I used to have heat with, but now she seems happy that Danielson is champion, so we're cool now. But he says that she had said it was the best day of her life, and says the double-decker Peppa Pig tour bus might have had something to do with it, but
that show sucked.
When he got to the back, his family, his peers congratulating him, all those things, it made it the favorite moment of his career, and I don't know why he hates WrestleMania 30 so much, but he does say that his contract expired on August 1st, and that he's going to be needing surgery sooner than later. But he wanted to thank the people that started this place. AEW is awesome. He's loved wrestling his entire life, and the fact that AEW even exists makes it better. So a really nice kind of a brand statement, and it looks like we're about to go home, but not quite yet. He says he's not going to retire as AEW champion. He'll fight for that title as long as he can, but his full-time career will be over when he does lose that title, and that there's a young, hungry locker room, and Jack Perry appears via Tron. He wants to connect dots. Nobody wanted him back. Nobody believed in Bryan Danielson, in Jack, including Bryan Danielson. He had to go ahead and create his own future, and he did that. He punched Tony Khan. He destroyed Kenny Omega, won the title, and buried Darby Allin at All In, which I think was good to call back to all of those things in this, because it hasn't felt like he's dominant because he's mixed in with such a silly act. But standing on that was all very good. His future is to retire Bryan Danielson, whether anyone likes it or not. And he is the future of the company. Jack Perry attacks. The video was all a distraction. And he chokes Bryan and takes off his jacket and shirt. Running knee. And that's how we end the show, with Jack Perry holding up both titles. It's a program that's great, and this guy is going to get booed in Chicago anyway. I think they'll avoid CM Punk chants by doing this, unless they ask for them. It's way too much TNT and made the title crossover for me. Like Darby having won a TNT title shot and a world title shot in the same taping. And then this feels a little like overkill, but if there's anything Bryan Danielson's going to do, it's going to be to make young talent look good in the process. So that
We'll also say there's logic there. Because Darby won the title shot and Jack Perry just beat Darby, why wouldn't Jack Perry be lined up for a title shot?
Because he should be defending his own fucking title.
I agree with that, but I'm trying to provide some logic for you, Kate.
No, you're right in that. But like, there's so many titles on the show that now that they have to like combine them. It almost feels like, but I understand the end game in this. I think it'll do wonders for Jack. I really do. But Joe, what did you think of our closing segment here?
I'm not thrilled by this, Jack Bryan, I guess, program, but to your point, I understand what it'll do for Jack going forward and helping Bryan put younger guys over. I just feel like it's just one of easily predictable outcomes where I don't feel like he's going to be the one to take the belt off of Bryan, especially when you already have the belt of the TNT belt.
Sure.
So that kind of took me out of it a little bit. And then, like you said, Bryan, Bryan's happy promo sometimes bum me out. I feel like I missed the kind of like the heelish Bryan promo sometimes. Because some of the ones that are more heartfelt are a little bit, bubbly, over the top, like really babyface promos.
Sure.
So I kind of missed the, I'm going to kick your fucking head in type of promos.
You're going to get your fucking head kicked in. The chat saying the fucking Nigel match was right there. I am, as a shock to many people, that match is an attraction era match for Danielson for me. That does not need to be for the world title. Unless Nigel's going to be the one to put him out and then vacate it. But, like, make Nigel the ROH Pure Champion and Danielson and him fight for that. Like, do that. But I truly think that's an attraction match that would be great for a Wrestle Dream or Forbidden Door. Like, a crossover pay-per-view. I think that would feel really good on. But, Ryan, what did you think of our closing match? Do you think the match between Danielson and Perry will be fun?
I'm just saying I'm going to kick your fucking head in. Listen, I'm glad you squashed your beef with Birdie.
It was time. It was time.
I think Jack Perry makes sense to me, ignoring the TNT issue for a second. And I know that's a big issue, but if you can ignore that, 4 out of 4 fun, Tim. Tim wants to know how many funds. So
Sure.
Just so he's curious, it's 4 out of 4. But so ignoring that, Jack makes a lot of sense from both a story and a non-story reason. Non-story reason is you want to keep building the momentum for him.
Sure.
And he's not going to win, but having an outstanding match with Bryan Danielson is a great way to continue to build him up. Story-wise, again, he just won a big match against Darby Allin. He's one of your top winning heels. Danielson's only got a little bit, like, I could see in a kayfabe world someone look and be like, oh no, let's give him a shot. So I'm all for it. I wasn't seeing this one come. I didn't see this one coming, and I enjoy that. I like that it's a little bit of a surprise to me. I think they're going to have a really fun match. And I know you don't need a lot of build here, and I think that works too. So it's all good, and then Birdie can get Dad home.
I think you're cruel for saying that, but I genuinely think if that's the case, Okada's got to defend his Continental title. The Young Bucks need to defend their title. Because the amount of titles that they have versus defenses is so disproportionate. It's driving me crazy. Like, they have to get that shit in gear. But a good, really, really, really strong Dynamite, I think, following up a very solid pay-per-view. Feels like we're in a good spot headed into this last stretch of the year. And more importantly, I get to see my friends on Friday. So, non-AEW related, we got some fun New Japan stuff coming up for our group as well. If you're going to be at Capital Collision, please say hi to us. But before we get out of here, we're going to let these fellas and this gal plug all of our shit. We're going to start with the Mark Order brand with Ryan, who runs the Soch. So tell the people where they can find us.
You can find us on all our socials at Mark Order Pod. Just don't be a
dickhead.
I don't know why I leaned in my microphone to hear you, but I did. So on all socials at Mark Order Pod, and then you could follow my history blog here for history.com. I actually am currently reading some stuff to actually write something. Clearly, I just can't write one day. I have to have done research, so I know what I'm revising. And then
I was gonna say important to if you're gonna change.
So that is going to kick back into a higher gear now that life has gotten a little bit easy. Not much, just slightly less, like a tenth easier.
A tenth less chaotic.
But so why not fill up those hours that I've given myself? But so yeah, at Mark Order Pod, at Mark Order Pod, here for history.com, at _ here for history. And Joe,
you sounded like the Swedish chef.
Yep.
Well, you can find me on social media at _ Joe, and in my bio, I have a link to my serial review blog, much like Ryan's blog. It's at the pace of the Elite Championship title defenses. So every now and then, you might get one.
I like it.
I'm gonna win eliminator matches against both of you, so I can get some new blog posts, but. You can find me at Miss Kate Fabe. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us tonight. I know this is a little bit longer of an episode, but there was a lot to talk about. Miss Kate Fabe on social media. You can catch me on Fightful every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday doing your NXT, ROH, and SmackDown reviews, but not this Friday because I'm going to be colliding capitally. Not AEW Collision, but the capital type. With these two fellas here. And Mondays on Fightful Select, as well as every other pay-per-view. Alex Pilowski and I doing reviews behind the paywall. My YouTube channel coming alive in September. I have a whole month of content finally planned, so very much looking forward to that. If you could subscribe at Miss Kate Fabe, would be eternally thankful. But everybody touching tips in the chat, thank you so much. We're going to get out of here. Some of you will see at Capital Collision. The rest of you, we'll see next Wednesday talking all things All Elite. Goodbye and good night.
I will.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled